Let there be light. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Imelech Malachei Hamelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeichem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem. I heard that out there, Aleichem Shalom. That's the correct response. When someone says Shalom Aleichem, you say? That's right. That's in the Yiddish. That's the way, a customary way of greeting one another, and we greet one another. We greet the Sabbath this way with the words of Shalom Aleichem. And what you heard was a beautiful rendition by the singer, songwriter, folk singer, the immortalized Debbie Friedman, who is the late Debbie Friedman is now the name of our school, our cantorial school at Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Debbie Friedman School of Sacred Music. Yes, they only add words, they never subtract them. It's in the German tradition. They keep adding to the words so that you have to honor all of the past. So that is what we are doing here tonight, this afternoon, I should say. It is 1:30 in the afternoon, and 1:34 to be exact. And we are doing, as we love to do, Dr. Ralph Seelig, who is my only friend. Actually, he says I'm his only friend. I will say he's my only friend, but only for this concert. No, he's a wonderful friend, and we've been doing this together for so many years, for decades now. A Kristallnacht commemoration that includes not only music of the gorgeous classical German tradition, which Dr. Seelig is a master of and a scholar of, in addition to being a math professor at Fairleigh Dickinson University. He tours the world as an organist and a professor of German Jewish music. And he is also on faculty at the cantorial school. What's that? In the Geiger Cantorial School. So in Europe, so you often will see him traveling all over Europe with his friends from the World Union of Progressive Judaism. And most recently, he was in Prague, reopening a congregation that has not had high holidays in it since the war. And in Prague with Rabbi David Maxa, which is a perfect segue for me to introduce Rabbi David Maxa. Would you like to introduce your friend David Maxa? Because he's a very close friend of yours. I want to give honor to you. Could you come up to the microphone up here and No. The live stream won't pick you up, but yes, we're recording. So if you could please speak into this microphone right here, so everyone can hear about Rabbi Maxa, and then we'll talk a little bit about the composers as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I should say good evening in Prague, because this is being live streamed where other people are watching. My name is Dr. Ralph Seelig. As the cantor told you, I'm a professor of mathematics and computer science at Fairleigh Dickinson University, but I'm also the visiting professor of liturgical music at Abraham Geiger College, where I train rabbis and cantors in music that sort of has waned its way out, but yet is coming back. Very briefly, the Shoah, as you know, destroyed the people. But in a way, it didn't destroy the music, because the music did survive. And what's very interesting is if you go to Europe today, if I were to ask you, what do you think the average age is at Eitz Chaim in Prague, what number would you say? Give me a number. Well, if you went into Eitz Chaim on a Friday night, what do you think the average age would be? Pick a number. 85. 30, 80, 50, 90. Okay. 35. And what's very interesting about this is that the Shoah, and I'll talk about Germany for maybe 1 minute. After the war, 15,000 Jews went back to Germany. 5,000 went to Frankfurt, 5,000 went to Munich, 5,000 went to Berlin, because that's where the DP camps were. And the ones who survived, really want nothing to do with Judaism. Their children weren't brought up Jewish either. But what we're seeing now in Europe is a tremendous phenomenon of grandchildren who want to reconnect with the past. So what kind of music do we do? Well, we do a mixture of music. Okay, we do some Karlbach, we do Debbie Friedman, we do Lewandowski. Today, the music that we're doing is really a blend of what you might expect to hear. And with regard to David Maxa, he was my student at the Abraham Geiger College. He's now the rabbi at Eitz Chaim. In the last 3 years, he went from 30 families up to 200. And if you've been to Prague, and you've been into the Spanish synagogue, we now go there once a month. So we're going to hear a few words from David Maxa. He was my student, and he is the senior rabbi at Eitz Chaim. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Seelig.
Shalom, dear friends. Though we may be very far from the distant, you are all close to my heart. Today I address you on the 86th anniversary of Kristallnacht with a heavy heart. Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, was the night of terror and destruction. Over 100 synagogues were set ablaze. More than 7,000 Jewish businesses were destroyed, and Jewish homes, hospitals, and schools were looted. Over 30,000 Jews were arrested and deported to concentration camps, more than 91 were murdered, and countless others were humiliated and tortured. It was a dark prelude to the horrors of the Shoah that followed. This year, the memory of Kristallnacht feels especially chilling as we reflect on the tragic events in Amsterdam just 3 days ago. Once again, Jews were targeted. Once again, hatred manifested itself in violence. And we must call these events by their true name, a pogrom. On the very same day these events occurred, I stumbled upon a poignant piece of history from an antique shop. A letter written by Hanush, a young Czech Jewish man, saying goodbye to his first love. His words are imbued with longing, hope, and also fear. I have to tell you that I will be leaving next month, and if there is still time between now and then, I would like to say goodbye to you. Maybe it's just for a short trip, maybe for always. I myself prefer to believe in the first option. Much has changed since we last met, but we only saw each other briefly and didn't have time to tell each other everything. Do you know that your picture is still on my bedside table? Every time I write to you, I actually tell you again. You know that since we broke up, and I still remember the exact time, date, place, nothing has changed in my feelings towards you. I believe that even if I go away, even if we do not see each other often, our hearts will remain bound together like an effort to preserve a fragile world that was already slipping away, a world soon lost forever over the horizon of history. His sentences, delicate yet strong, carried the weight of a life filled with dreams, fears, and love. Finding this letter now feels profoundly significant. It reminds us that the Shoah is not the murder of 6 million people as a faceless number. It was the murder of more than 6 million individuals. 6 million times an individual was murdered, a human being. Each victim was a world. One of those worlds was Hanush, a young man caught in the tragedy of history, but still yearning to say goodbye. Let us remember him. Let us not forget him. Let us remember the powerful word of Yehuda. Thou shalt not be a victim. Thou shalt not be a perpetrator. But above all, thou shalt not be a bystander. But even amidst sorrow, not all is grim. Just 9 days ago in Prague, we celebrated Shabbat in the beautiful Spanish synagogue. Under the skilled hands of Professor Dr. Ralph Selig, the synagogue's original organ resounded once again, connecting us to the rich tradition of Jewish organ music. This special Shabbat was attended by a delegation from the World Union for Progressive Judaism and marked 2 significant milestones. First, we inaugurated the expanded premises of our community center. To the existing synagogue, we added a dedicated children's room, a multi-purpose classroom and social hall, and new offices for rabbining and community work. This achievement would not have been possible without the support of friends near and far, who are committed to the revival of Reform Judaism in Prague. Second, together with the Memorial Strongstrasse and the World Union for Progressive Judaism, we allocated a Czech Memorial Torah scroll on permanent display in the Chamber of Deputies of the Czech Parliament. This Torah is not only our sacred text, which is no longer kosher, it's pasul, it's not
want to thank Rabbi Maxa for joining us virtually from Prague, and to you, Rabbi Maxa, I hope that I loved meeting you here at Recharging Reform here at Stephen Wise while you were here in New York. And I'm so glad that we got to hang out while we were here, but I hope that in the future that we can meet one another in Prague. My father's mother was an Oppenheim, and her family traces back to Rabbi David Oppenheim, who was once the chief rabbi of Prague. And so it would be amazing to come there for a family trip and to meet you there in Prague, and to make some music together with Dr. Selig and you. So we are transitioning now into our musical program. The music of Lewandowski, Albert Kellerman, and Samuel Ullman, which mark some of the greatest music of the classical reform period of German classical reform music. A little bit about the composers. Louis Lewandowski lived from 1821 until 1894. He was destined for a life in Jewish music from a very young age. Owing to an extreme poverty in his family and the early demise of his mother, Mr. Lewandowski left Berlin at the age of 12, where he became a Zingerl, which is a little singer, a child singer in the choir of Cantor Asher Leon. By making some very fortunate contacts, Lewandowski was able to obtain the patronage of Alexander Mendelssohn, a cousin of the famous Felix Mendelssohn, and he became the first Jewish student to be accepted into the Berlin Academy of Arts, where he distinguished himself in his musical studies, learning with the foremost teachers of his time. He began to write and perform a considerable amount of music to great acclaim and serious music when he was incapacitated by a serious nervous condition. This prevented him from working for 4 years. Among the popular synagogue compositions by Lewandowski, still sung widely, include Uvnucho Yodmar, Matovu, Hallelujah for Rosh Hashanah, and Ve'al Chataim for Yom Kippur. As well as synagogue music, Mr. Lewandowski also composed psalms, symphonies, cantatas, and songs. In 1866, the German government bestowed upon Lewandowski the title of Royal Music Director. And now a little bit about Samuel Ullman. Samuel Ullman lived from 1877 until 1947. He was born in Sobolevka, Podolia, in 1877. He began his musical education at the conservatory in Odessa and was a member of the Russian army band based there. After the tragic pogrom in Kishinev, Ullman moved to London, where he continued his musical studies at the Royal College of Music. There he focused upon opera composition and debuted his first biblical opera, King Ahaz, in 1912. In 1916, he was appointed the choirmaster at the Hampstead Synagogue in London. Ullman's reputation spread quickly, and he was hired to lead several other local Jewish choirs in London. Ullman was deeply influenced by the Eastern European cantorial tradition, specifically by the work of Chazanim, Nison Spivak, and Solomon Sulzer. He made use of elaborate modern harmony in his arrangements, evoking the impressionistic style of French composer Claude Debussy. In 1925, he published Synagogue Compositions, a collection of liturgical arrangements for Sabbath and weekday services. In addition to composing synagogue music, Ullman also wrote and published several arrangements of popular Yiddish folk songs. And now, without further ado, I would like to begin our program with our first piece, Enosh, from Psalm 103. This normally would be sung with a choir. Adonai Adam. God, what is man? Lo irara, I will not fear evil. This is a liturgy from a funeral which we just experienced here in the same sanctuary just an hour ago. These words are very, very powerful and made even more powerful by the gorgeous arrangement of Albert Kellerman, who was the successor to Louis Lewandowski and conducted the Berlin Philharmonic, and also composed and arranged a great deal of classical music for both the synagogue and the stage. Please enjoy this beautiful rendition by Albert Kellerman.
Adonai Ma'adam Vatedaehu Benedos Vatekashvehu Benedos Shivtecha
Shema Kolenu, God, hear our voice. Hashivenu, God, return us. Al tashlichenu milafanecha. Please, God, we return to you. We ask your forgiveness. Imagine now it is Yom Kippur in Germany.
תעזבנו ואל תדחנו ואל תכלימנו ואל תופר בריחו איתנו קרבנו ולסורסך למדנו במצוותיך הורנו דרכיך הט ליבנו ויראו את שמך ובס לבביך לעבודך ונשוב אליך באמס ובשולם ולמען שמך גדול תמחול ותסלח לעווננו ככתוב בתורתך למען שמך הגדול וסלחת לעבורי כי רבו
Shomer Yisrael, guard Israel. We ask God to guard us all, guard us from this fear, guard us from the hatred, guard us all in this time. This is a space not only for Kristallnacht, but for all that is happening in the world today that feels so present. The rise of fascism, the rise of authoritarianism. Guard us, God. Guard us now as you did in ages past.
Shomer Yisrael, Shemor Sheris Yisrael, V'yayovar Yisrael, Amrim Shoma Yisrael, Shomer Goyechad, Shemor Sheris Amechad, V'yayovar Beshilus Kedushim Lekadosh.
And now I would like to invite my dear friend, Dr. Carl Stieg, who is going to tell you his story as a Holocaust survivor who came here to the United States to become an amazing, renowned pediatric cardiologist and a member of our congregation who I love so dearly. Thank you, Dr. Stieg. You can speak right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just tell you that Kristallnacht, you've heard about this final solution. Kristallnacht was the beginning of the solution. I'm going to give you a little background to how it sort of started. On October 27th, 1938, as a result of what was called German-Polish differences, the German government ordered the deportation of all Jews possessing Polish nationality. It was October 27th, 1938. The Polish government, however, issued directives not allowing those deportees to enter Poland. 18,000 Jews were deported with advance notice and taken to the Polish-German border. They were, however, denied entry into Poland and ended up living in a no-man's land. Among those deported were a couple named Sendel and Rivka Greenspan, who had lived in Hanover, Germany since the end of World War I, nearly 20 years. In 1936, two years earlier, Herschel Greenspan, their son, had left for Paris at the age of 15 to live with an uncle. And in 1938, he got notice of the deportation of his parents. And on the morning of November 7th, 1938, he presented himself to the receptionist at the German embassy in Paris. He asked to see the ambassador and was instead seen by a junior consul whose name became historical in Germany, whose name was Ernst von Rath, and Greenspan took out a gun and shot von Rath. German newspapers were filled the next 2 days with headline stories of the event, blaming Jews for the assassination of a German diplomat, and riots organized by Nazi Party members ensued in a number of German cities. This so-called organized activity was not, however, officially sanctioned by the Nazi leadership. Von Rath died of his wounds 2 days later on November 9th, the beginning of the Kristallnacht, 1938. On that day, November 9th, the entire Nazi leadership had congregated in Munich for the annual commemoration of the beer hall putsch of 1923, which you might have heard of, honoring the martyrs of that particular Nazi debacle, and which actually had resulted in Hitler's imprisonment. At 7 p.m. that evening in 1938, Hitler was made aware of the von Rath death and signaled his approval of the ensuing pogrom, which came to be known as Kristallnacht. Crystal Night, the night of broken glass, when Jewish shop windows were smashed, synagogues set afire. The pogrom was nationwide, affecting hundreds of communities, both large and small. Police were officially ordered to act slowly and inefficiently, making no significant attempts to reestablish order in the cities and towns. Fire personnel were told not to extinguish flaming synagogues, so as not to incite the mob further and to be sure to protect adjoining structures from a potential spread of the fire. The morning of November 10th, 1938, 30,000 Jewish men from all over Germany were taken to 3 concentration camps, Dachau, Buchenwald, and Sachsenhausen. Their, quote, imprisonment, unquote, was intended to terrorize German Jews and compel them to undertake emigration and to transfer all of Jewish assets into Aryan hands. This was propagandized, however, as protective custody. Now, a little about my own personal story. On November 9th, 1938, Carl Stieg, me, living in a town called Karlsruhe, Germany, a city of about 200,000 near the Black Forest in southwestern Germany, I was 3 weeks away from celebrating my first birthday. On November 10th, 1938, Paul Sigmund Stieg, my father, was among those arrested, taken away, and in his case, transported by truck, train, and eventually cattle car to the concentration camp of Dachau. We interviewed my parents in 1989, and this is my father's story. My father and mother woke up on the morning of November 10th, 1938. It seemed like another normal day. Living outside the center of Karlsruhe, they were totally unaware of what had transpired the night before. My father, who, by the way, had lost his position as a judge following Hitler's election as chancellor in 1933, biked to work, as was his custom, pedaling to his office at the Jüdische Hilfsverein, a Jewish agency that assisted Jews to emigrate. The office was quite distant from the commercial center of the city. It was only when police came and arrested him that he first realized that something had happened, but he didn't know what. He had been questioned a year and a half earlier in his capacity as the secretary of the B'nai B'rith Lodge and subsequently released after questioning. There was no reason to believe that this would be any different. He was taken to police headquarters at that time and first noticed jeering mobs on the streets and subsequently placed in a large cell with other Jewish men from Karlsruhe, most of whom he knew. The group was then loaded onto trucks and transported to a police barracks outside of town. Hundreds of men from Karlsruhe and surrounding areas were massed in the assembly area of the barracks, a very large space like one might find in an armory here in New York. They were all ordered to face the wall, arms raised, legs spread, and were warned that to turn around meant being shot. The loading of rifles was heard. My father truly could not believe what was occurring, couldn't believe that someone might actually shoot him and kill him. He related that this was the first time he ever thought about dying, and the classic thoughts of those who feel they were about to die started flying through his head, mainly, of course, his family, his son, who was about to celebrate his first birthday. No one turned around. No one was killed. Eventually, the men were reloaded onto trucks and taken to the railroad station, where they boarded an old train with wooden seats, which brought them slowly, ever so slowly, to Munich, and from there they were placed in cattle cars on their way to Dachau, the concentration camp, in the Bavarian village of the same name, just outside of Munich. My father recalled how difficult it was, particularly for the elderly, to disembark from these boxcars, as the floor was quite high and off the ground. Dachau was, as you may have heard, and as you've seen in so many movies, many lights, the big sign, Arbeit macht frei, SS with submachine guns, all of that. The men were then told to strip. They were examined. They were showered with real showers at that time and issued prison garb, thin as pajamas, my father said. And they were housed in barracks, photos of which I'm sure you've all seen. He was assigned to barracks number 10. The days in Dachau were totally disorganized, he said. There were no real work details. It was quite clear that it was not known exactly what to do with all this mass of people. Prisoners were assembled, reassembled, marched around, questioned constantly as to the name and place of birth. Prisoners are rearranged and rearranged again and again were ordered to rearrange their barracks, as well as making ready other barracks for new arrivals. They were constantly exposed to the cold and the damp, with, as my father related, the obvious intention to provoke illness. Only the absolute minimum considered necessary for survival was provided, whether with food, clothing, or sanitary facilities, and illness became rampant. Not long after arrival, postcards were distributed upon which the prisoners were instructed to write the following, quote, "I am in Dachau, I am well, send 10 marks." Marks being the currency in Germany at that time, which, by the way, my mother sent. After 10 days of this horror, during roll call, my father was informed that he was to be among those who were to be released. He had no idea why. He was the only Karlsruhe prisoner to go home that day. It was boarding the train in Munich on his way home that he first became aware of the destruction of Kristallnacht. He came home with pneumonia, was confined to his bed for a number of weeks, and while recovering, a procession of women visited him, hoping to get some information about their husbands and fathers. Unfortunately, he really was unable to be of much help, having been housed mainly with men from other parts of Germany. Now, my Mother's Day. Now, we're going to visit the morning of November 10th again. My mother, Margaret, bade Paul goodbye that morning, totally unaware of the doings of the night before. Later that morning, she received a call from Frau Lippmann, my father's secretary, informing my mother of my father's arrest. My mother hurriedly called an acquaintance who lived near my father's office, hoping to get more information, but the friend could not provide any further news. My mother, a redoubtable woman to say the least, biked straight to police headquarters. There she was able to speak with the local police, and as she relates, they were very accommodating and polite. They regretted to tell her that they did not know where my father had been taken. Home she went, but not for long. She then remembered the name of the Gestapo officer who had interrogated my father at the time of his interrogation some years before. His name was Seidel, S-E-I-D-L, Seidel. Right to Gestapo headquarters, she biked looking for Herr Seidel. After quite some time, Seidel eventually saw her. She was a very, very persistent woman. In relating this story, my mother was always sure to remind us that she was treated with respect by the Gestapo staff, but not by Seidel. Seidel took her into his office, and in a very unpleasant manner and shrill voice informed my mother that ist, wo hingehört. Your husband is where he belongs. She left. Seidel followed her out of the building. He caught up alongside her and said very quietly, "Go home, Mrs. Stieg. I will do what I can." And then he added, "Get out of Germany as quickly as possible." On or about November 20th, Paul Stieg returned home to Brunhildenstrasse in Karlsruhe. In January 1939, two months after Kristallnacht, Paul Stieg, Margaret Stieg, and I, aged 14 months, boarded the SS Manhattan in Bremerhaven, bound for New York. An addendum. As per the well-known German tradition of record-keeping and orderliness, years later, a letter arrived from Germany, informing my father that 10 marks were still sitting in his Dachau account. The amount that my mother had sent to Dachau at the time in those days of horror. He never claimed it. Maybe it's still there. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the addendum. The addendum is powerful. Thank you. It's wonderful to hear from you, Dr. Stieg, again. We love having you here on Kristallnacht. We are transitioning now into more contemporary Israeli music. Since October 7th of last year, we turned the program into a shloshim, and now a yahrzeit of this tragedy that unfolded in Israel, the kibbutzim on the border of the West Bank, and the invasion of Hamas and the atrocities that happened there. And as much as this is in our memories, we are living through it today. And we can never forget, and yet it's happening around us. It's happening in Israel. It's happening in Europe. We're living through scary times. But the most important thing, don't be afraid. This is a text by Hannah Senesh. You all know who Hannah Senesh is. She's a paratrooper, a young Hungarian-born Jewish woman. She was one of 32 Jewish volunteer parachutists from Palestine that the British Army sent behind German lines for the resistance and rescue efforts. On June 7th, 1944, she tried to infiltrate German-occupied Hungary. Authorities captured her as she was trying to cross the border into the country. They tortured her for several months, but she never betrayed her colleagues. Senesh was eventually convicted of treason and executed. She was only 23 years old. Eli, Eli. Eli, Eli,
ייגמר לעולם. הגבול והים, רשרוש של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. If you know the English, oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart. For all these things, we are grateful. Al kolera. If you know it, sing it. על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על ביתנו התינוקת שמור אלי הטוב, על האש המבוערת, על המים הזכים, על האיש ששב הביתה מן המרחקים, על כל אלה, על כל אלה, שמור נגי אלי הטוב, על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על נטע כל התרועה, אל תשכח את התקווה, השיבני ואשובה אל הארץ הטובה. שמור לי על זה הבית, על הגן, על החומה, מיגון, מפחד פתי וממלחמה. שמור על המעט שיש לי, על האור ועל הטף, על הפרי שלא הבשילו ושנאסף, על כל אלה, על כל אלה, שמור אני אלי הטוב, על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על נטע כל התרועה, אל תשכח את התקווה, השיבני והשובה אל הארץ הטובה.
Let it be. Lu Yehi.
עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק, מול ענן שחור כבד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. ואם בחלונות הערב אור נרותך גרועד, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. בתוך שכונה קטנה מותרת בית קק עם גג אדום, כל שנבקש לו יהי. זה סוף הציד, סוף הדרך, תן להם לשוב חלום, כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
We say Misha Berach for our Tzahal, for the IDF, at a time of war. We pray for an end of the war, a swift end to the war, and that all the hostages shall be brought back speedily. Bring them back now.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Abraham, Yitzhak, ויעקב, ויברך את הירץ והגנה בישראל, ויברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, ויברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, ויברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר עתנו וערי אלוהינו מגבול לבנון ועד מבא מצרים, מן הים הגדול והערבה, ביבשה באוויר באוויר ובים, ויברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, ויברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, ונאמר אמן.
A prayer for the state of Israel, Avinu Shebashamayim.
אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. Barech, barech, et merinat Yisrael, reshit tzmichot geulateinu, hagen alecha, mevror chasdecha, v'rotz alecha sukat shlomecha. אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל בקהלו. אבינו, אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל בקהלו. ישראל וקולו.
We added this year a special martyrology Kaddish, and if you would please rise for this if you are able. We'll be reciting the Kaddish in this special melody that was from Cantor Jacob Barkin. It's the melody Ani Ma'amin. And the arrangement is adapted by Spyro with Max Helfman's arrangement, which we often hear here at Stephen Wise on the high holidays during the afternoon service of Yom Kippur. Now we'll be reciting the names of the towns as we go through this.
Auschwitz, mi alma divra kirute, Dachau, mi amlich malchute, Buchenwald, bechayechon, uv yomechon, Babiyar, uv chayedechol bet Yisrael, Baghdad, בעלקה ובזמן קריב חברון ואמרו אמן. יהי שמר רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח כפר עציון ויתפאר ויתרומן מיינס ויתפאר ויתהדר תרצין ויתהדר ויתהלל טרבלינקה שמד קודשה בריחו ברקן בלסן לילה לילה וילנה מכל ברכתה ושירתה אושה תוספחתה ונחמתה מסדה דמירן בעלמה וימרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. אני מאמין, אני מאמין. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. אני מאמין, אני מאמין. We continue remaining standing for El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim shochen b'maromim hametzeh menucha nechona tachas kanefei hashchinah בבלות קידושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע המזהירים את נשמות כל אלה שהזכרנו היום לברכה שהלכו לעולמם בעבור רשענו נודבים צדקה ויד הזכרת נשמותיהם לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם אדוני הוא נחלתם בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם וינוח על משכבותיהם ושלום ונאמר
Hatikva.
Kolod bareva penima nefesh yehuri omiha ufate misra kadima ayin lezion Sophia od lo Hatikvatenu, Hatikva, Bachnot Alpaim, Liotam Koshi, Beatzenu, Eretzion, Yerushalayim, Liotam Koshi, Beatzenu, Eretzion, Yerushalayim.
This concludes our service. Thank you all for coming to Kristallnacht. Thank you all for observing this day and for being together as a Jewish community. Thank you to Dr. Ralph Selig, to Rabbi David Maksa, and to all of you for never forgetting, and for Dr. Carl Stieg for never allowing us to forget your story, the story of your parents, a beautiful story. And may we all be inspired with this music, and may its memory reverberate for generations to come. And may we all get a cookie as we all walk out the door as a special treat. So thank you all for coming. The doors will be closing in 10 minutes. Thank you all. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you.